everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and I have my dear friend Samantha Madsen here. We did a video a little more than 3 years ago, we figured out, about all the reasons why you should consider not using commercially made soap. Her and I are both soap makers on a pretty big level. In fact, she's got a whole soap company. That's her whole company. And it's so fun because you are like more scientific than me as far as you geek out on all the stuff that I know about, but you really geek out about it.
I do geek out.
Yes, which is great. So what I wanted to do is, we are in January of 2023, so I wanted to do an update with Samantha with more information just to empower you to pay attention to what you buy and what you put on your largest organ, which is your skin. So last time we talked about 5 things, and I think we might have more, but we might have just more details that will empower you for this stuff. So
yeah,
I would say wherever you want to start, and then I'll just pop in.
Okay. So I think what would be good to start with first is the kind of go over some of the chemicals that you find in soap, because it seems like we got a lot of questions on those last time.
Yeah, that's true.
And so one of the things I wanted to kind of go over first is sort of first ingredient, if you will, is it's called sodium lauryl sulfate. You'll see it often on the label as SLS or SLES. Yeah, that's correct. And sodium lauryl sulfate can increase the sensitivity of your skin with repeated exposure. But the reason soap makers like it is because it's both a detergent and a surfactant. So it foams, right? So if you think about a soap bar, you want it to lather and have good bubbles and long-lasting bubbles, right? So
and is that what sodium lauryl sulfate does?
Yeah, so it helps.
Bubbles?
Yeah, it helps with that. And then also it's a kind of like a degreaser. That's the detergent part about it, where it helps remove oils, fats, and grease.
Oh, okay.
But it's also commonly used with bath bombs, because if you think about bath bombs, you take citric acid and baking soda and combine them together. You can mix them in a bowl and just add some water, and it's going to foam up. But adding a little bit of SLS really makes it foam and makes it fun, right? And so that's why a lot of you'll find that a lot in your bath bombs. But if you think about the difference between showering and bathing, right? You're kind of in a bath for longer, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to kind of if you've already got sensitive skin, exposing yourself to that can make you even more sensitive. And it can also increase if you've got a tendency to have eczema, it can increase that too. But I do want to point out there is I don't want to call it a sister compound, but it sounds the same. It's called sodium lauryl sulfonyl acetate. And it's inscripted with SLS and then usually lowercase a. Sometimes you'll see it as a capital A. And I actually have a little diagram I put together that shows, right, if you can see this, see SLS or SLES is not good, and SLSA, sodium lauryl sulfonyl acetate, is good. And it does very similar things that SLS does, right? It helps with foaming, and it's also kind of a degreaser. And so so when you're reading your labels, if you see SLS, you tend to kind of want to avoid that.
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting to me that even though as humans we love the bubbling and we love all the extra stuff that does, the manufacturer still will put it in their ingredients knowing that it's bad for us, just to give us that sense of something that's fun.
Yes,
exactly. It's like, okay, well, how about if you go, well, this is why we don't use this. So I actually don't think I really knew the difference between those two. So if you see the sodium lauryl
sulfonyl acetate.
Sulfonyl acetate.
That's the little A.
So and what makes that, how does that make it better?
So that's actually, sodium lauryl sulfate is actually derived from, it's an ester compound derived from sulfuric acid. Okay. Where the acetate, the sulfonyl acetate, is actually plant derived. They're two totally different compounds, And it's just that they kind of have similar names, so they often get confused.
Well, that is a powerful bit of information, I think.
Yeah.
Because you might actually not realize that something is actually good because it starts with sodium lauryl.
Yes.
And I personally have avoided products that probably had the second...
sulfoacetate in it.
Yeah. So that's a really good thing to know.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it would be good for you to know the difference because, like in bath bombs, right? SLSA, you're going to get a very similar effect. It's just that it's going to be okay for you where the SLS isn't. So,
that's good. Okay, so what next?
So the next one is dioxanes. So dioxanes, when commercial soap manufacturers make soap, they'll add things like SLS and emulsifiers and conditioning agents to the soap because they remove all the glycerin. We talked about that before. The reason they do that is because the glycerin is a much more valuable, profitable product to the cosmetic.
It's a hot commodity.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's a hot commodity, and so they sell that to the cosmetic industry because they can make money from that, and then they'll go back in and add a little bit of glycerin to their soap to give it, so that it has a little bit, but then they've got to add all of these other things. Well, the thing with dioxane is when you look at the ingredient label, you're not going to see it on a label. The reason is it's a byproduct. So when SLS is mixed with other compounds, dioxanes are a product of that. And so, not in huge amounts, just in small amounts, but dioxanes are, they are a probable carcinogen to both humans and animals. And so and plus it can be absorbed by the skin. So you want to avoid it for sure if you can. But like I said, so you're not going to see it on a label, but if it's got SLS in it, it's probably got dioxane in it too.
Okay. And to me, it seems like homemade soaps have had a huge rise, I think, even in the last 10 or 20 years, you could say.
Yeah.
And I would even think the last few years, even since we made our previous video, that people are really starting to recognize how important it is that they pay attention and they're responsible to every single thing that has to do with their health. And here's the thing, even people who make homemade soap and actually do it on a big scale will use less than stellar ingredients.
That's true.
And that's been an unfortunate thing that I've been a witness to because I know a lot of people who make homemade soap and I've connected with people who make their own homemade soap, and it's like, well, why are you doing this, going through the steps of making this beautiful homemade soap, and then you're putting these bad ingredients in it, even like so far as artificial colors. Like when we did our bath bombs last year, they had a certain recipe that I was able to tweak, but they put colors like red number 2 and blue number 5.
Dyes and
just to simply give it color because people think colors are fun.
Yes.
And to me, that's like, I would rather have a pure white bath bomb knowing that it's, or even soap. So that's why you and I use things like, I use rose hip powder, I use cinnamon, real cinnamon, I use different...
cocoa powder.
Yeah, like
turmeric.
Yeah, things to add color that make it fun and pretty, but that are actually good for you. So anyway, I think that's just a fascinating thing I wanted to throw in there.
That's awesome because you're absolutely right. We like things that, because of what you said, because of color or because of foaming or because of whatever, and it's not good for us just because it makes it feels good or because it's, like you said, fun.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about is triclosan, and you've probably heard of triclosan because it's actually a pesticide, but it acts as an antifungal, antibacterial agent. Interestingly, and triclosan has been a known lung, eye, and skin irritant, right? And so the good thing about triclosan, it's been removed from the soap manufacturing, from the commercial soap manufacturing since 2016. It was no longer allowed to be in. But the reason why I wanted to bring it to your attention is because for reasons unbeknownst to me and Shane and any other sane person out there, it's still allowed to be used in shampoos, deodorants, and shaving products. Go figure. Makes no sense at all.
So pay close attention to the things that you're buying on those things.
Yes, exactly. And then the other one is parabens, right? We all probably, you all know what parabens, right? They extend the shelf life of pretty much whatever it's going to be added into. But parabens are, known hormone interrupters, right? Hormone interrupters, and they also can increase. Parabens is also something that's absorbed by the skin as well. In fact, the CDC, I was going to say they increase the sensitivity in skin, and they can also increase, like if maybe you don't have eczema, right, normally, but when you bathe with something that has a high paraben content, you might get an eczema bout. Wouldn't stay with you, but parabens is going to be part of the cause of that. And the other thing is that the CDC reported that scientists have found in almost all the people that they've tested they took urine samples, have found parabens in them.
Yeah, you hear that all the time, that even in baby's blood, like a brand new newborn, they find all kinds of toxins just because it's all passed on in utero, and it's an interesting chemical-filled world. And I think that the more we can pay attention to being exposed to so much, it's going to be better for us. So, and I would say most of the people watching this that are interested in natural things for their skin, that's probably one of the top is parabens.
Parabens, yeah.
And that's simply used as a preservative.
Yeah, and it's a preservative, right? Because it extends the shelf life. So, I mean, I think it's now I don't know, but I think in sunscreen it's not as used as much as it used to be, but it's still used in a lot of personal care products. And what's interesting is the scientists found in their studies that women had a higher paraben uric concentration, and if you think about it's in our cosmetics, we use more personal care products than men.
That is true.
So yeah.
Wow. Well, there you go. So, and will it be listed as the ingredient?
Yes, it'll have. It'll usually say something before paraben, but you're going to see parabens in the label.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's something to avoid.
Yes, something to avoid. And then the next thing that I wanted to talk about is fragrances.
I love this because I love essential oils. I know you do too.
Yes, right.
And
exactly.
They can be really bad for you. Like the fragrances that are artificial to create, and people use them because they're cheaper.
Yes, a lot cheaper. They're a lot cheaper. And the other thing is with fragrances, if you think about, like, you walk into a store and there's certain bath and body stores, right, that are just all dedicated to all bath products. And if you walk into a store, you get all of these smells, and you can bet that almost everything that you're smelling is a chemical synthetic fragrance, right? So it's definitely not essential oils. And the thing that makes fragrances so worrisome is almost all of the fragrance, not all fragrances, but most have petroleum-based chemicals in them. And along with that are phthalates. It's spelled PTH, right? Phthalates. And those are worrisome because of, and they're becoming an increasingly interesting product to more than the natural group, because they're starting to find out all kinds of things about phthalates that, aren't so good. Like, it really can increase skin sensitivity. So if you think about, and it also can increase your allergic reaction to certain scents and things as you keep getting exposed to the same thing over and over. Mm-hmm. And if you think about what we're doing with our children, right, and exposing them early, you could really increase their allergic sensitivity to scent chemicals, right, just because of that exposure with fragrances, because of the phthalates that are in them.
Yeah, and the nice thing too about knowing this and looking for things that are made with essential oils, even though there is a little bit more of a price difference, is that most of the time essential oils are so good for you. Well, not most time, all the time.
Yeah.
When you smell them, when you put them on your skin, when you absorb them through, either breathing them in or having them on your body.
Or even in your food, right?
Like
totally. Rosemary and lavender, and
Yeah, and one of the things that I did when I just had my recent knee surgery, and I still do this probably once a week, is I use frankincense essential oil directly on my knee, because
wow.
That's an expensive oil, but
Yes.
it's also a very healing oil that you can use what they call neat, which means directly on your skin,
Yeah.
because some essential oils need to have a carrier oil with them, so that because
They're almost too powerful.
they're too, oh yeah, when they're by themselves.
Yeah.
But if you've ever used, like for a sprained ankle or a torn, like something really tender, as far as if you work out extra hard, or like I know when I would go on a big long hike for the first one of the season and my legs were sore, I would put some frankincense essential oil, and it's so healing, and it just smells so good too. So
yeah, and it's anti-inflammatory.
yeah. And it was just like, so for a good solid 3 months after every single day, I would come to bed and I would just smell like a frankincense factory. It was like, and finally my husband got used to it, but it was like the first time I came to bed with it on, he's like, woo, woo.
What is that?
Yeah, because it's not like the most. It's got a very unique smell.
It does have a very unique smell.
And some people might not like it, but I personally love it. And I've actually made batches of soap with it, only for myself because it's so expensive to put in soap. But
yes, it is. That's very true.
So I got off on an essential oil tangent, but make sure that you use, if it says natural scent or natural fragrance, that does not mean it's an essential oil.
Right.
So when they use the word natural fragrance or natural additives, that does not mean that it's the real deal.
Right.
So please know that natural fragrance is different from essential oil.
Thank you for clarifying that, because that's absolutely true. Yes.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I kind of wanted to cover, because it was kind of a discovery about the tallow, right?
Yeah.
Tallow, right? So from, which is fat from, beef, sheep, goats, and pigs are often referred to as lard, right? Lard or suet. That's even in humans, the fat in our organs, around our organs, is harder than like our subcutaneous fat. And so you want to use a hard fat. And so it's controversial to use in soap for a couple of reasons. Tallow is very similar to palm oil, where it makes a bar nice and hard. And, that's really great. Tallow also can make a bar kind of like a white bar. But in the commercial industry, they actually bleach it and add some other stuff into it to give it that really white appearance. And so since this last video, I have joined some soaping groups, right? Just for connection, networking, saying, hey, how do you do this? And this is how I do that, right? And I have come to a very surprising realization, and that is that tallow is used by a lot of soap makers like Jane and I. And they use it for the same reason that commercial soap manufacturers do, because it's plentiful and it's cheap.
And it makes a hard bar.
But it's not a very good cleansing agent, right? So, they'll add something like coconut oil, which is a good cleansing agent. But, so here's what made me think, right? So tallow. So if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, you're probably not going to really like a bar that's made with beef fat, because it doesn't really align with your values and your lifestyle. And if you're an environmentalist, then it conflicts with your, how you look at life, because of the ecological compact that the meat industry has on the environment. And then the big question I had as a soap maker is, if you're using tallow because it's cheap and plentiful, what else are soap makers skimping on? That's
100%.
Yeah, so that was a real surprise to me, to find out how much tallow was used by soap makers. And I mean, like Jane and I, we use olive oil, shea butter, almond oil,
coconut oil.
We use things like that because our bars are vegan.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of anything that's animal based in any that I'd make. Or
Yeah. Now I have one that it's a goat's milk soap, so it has
Oh,
goat milk in it.
that's
so.
different. That feels different to me.
Yes. No, it is. It is different.
Yeah.
It's not.
Ooh, that sounds luscious, actually.
It's like bathing with cream. It's
Oh,
wonderful.
God. It's almost like a few years ago I made soap with olive oil and then all shea butter. I didn't use any coconut oil.
Oh yes, I remember because you gave me a bar.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it actually made a really hard bar, but and we say when we talk about a hard bar, we say that because it makes the bar last longer.
Yes.
But all shea butter with some olive oil. So I replaced all of the coconut oil, which is the majority of it's olive oil and then coconut oil and then shea butter. It would be that's how we make ours now. But I did this with all shea butter in place of all the coconut
oil too.
And oh my goodness, like talk about a creamy bar. It's probably
Yes, I
creamy
remember.
as your goat milk,
Mhm.
where you just like the reason that commercial soaps they dry out your skin is especially in the winter for people, I think,
Oh, yes.
or even in the summer when it's dry and it's hot in some places. You take a shower or a bath with a commercial bar or a bar without nice ingredients, and that's why your skin is dry.
Yep, it's dry, it feels tight, it's itchy, and it's because
Right.
of a lot of the synthetic products that they have in there, right? And not
Yeah.
good for your skin products. And then also they've taken all the glycerin out, and glycerin is such a great ingredient for your skin.
Yeah, and it's a glycerin is something that automatically happens in the process of combining sodium hydroxide and all of the oils. When they combine, they create a chemical reaction. It's a natural reaction that actually makes glycerin.
Yeah.
So they're these naturally occurring beautiful bits of glycerin is pulled off, like we said in the beginning of this video, by the soap manufacturers and sold to places that make like lotions or
Face creams
or whatever,
yeah.
because it is a hot commodity. So when you get truly homemade soap, and all you have to do is look on the label and the ingredients, or if you're going to I know you go to a lot of events where you set up a table and you set up
Yes.
a booth, and
Yeah.
and if you go to those and you there's a lot of soap makers there.
Yes.
Ask them. Now you're going with some arsenal to say, okay, do you use essential oils or do you use fragrance oils? Do
Yeah.
you use tallow? And if it says tallow, that means it's probably beef tallow.
Yes, and the other thing I wanted to add to that is on the tallow. So something else I learned is some people, because of the controversial element with tallow, they've asked other soap makers, how do you label tallow on your your label? Like what do you call it? And some people have responded, just embrace it. It's beef fat, sheep fat, goat fat, whatever, right? And just embrace it. And then some people have said I use the Latin name, or so when you look at that label, if you see something on there that seems kind of funny, ask what it is.
Yeah.
Because you want to get deep into that.
I would agree, especially just because I think there's a lot of people that are out there making soap, and that's a good thing. I think that's a very good thing that we're now evolving into more of a society where it's not. I mean, it's so fun to make homemade skin products.
It is.
I mean, her and I geek out so hard on this stuff. Like
We
every
do.
time I make a new bar of something, or I guess it hasn't for a while, but you'll bring me bars of soap,
Yes,
and you're
I
like,
do.
try this.
Doesn't it smell awesome?
And it does. Okay, so I think that we kind of covered everything, but we wanted to just update this because it's been a while now. If you want to connect with Samantha, now she does soaps that are way, way, way at the top of the mountain from the soaps I make, and I'm not dissing on my soaps at all.
No,
but that's
of
not the
course
main thing that I do. That is something that we do as a little side hustle. A little side project because it's just fun to do, and we love to do it. But some of the soap that Samantha does, all of the soap she does is like really incredible. So your company is called, in fact, tell people where they can find you and how they can connect with you.
Okay, so the company is called Soap Essential, right? Singular, and all one word, soapessential.com. And I can be found on the internet. You can find me, and all my information and contact will be there. We are getting ready to change the name, but I guess right now that none of that matters.
What are you getting ready to change it to? Are you?
So it's called Luxe Body Works because we've expanded into so much more than just soaps, right? We have
That's
so
right.
many other things, and Lux for luxurious ingredients, because ingredients do matter.
Which is amazing. So below this video, there will be a link to Soap Essential, and you also have a YouTube channel.
I do have a YouTube
Yeah,
channel under fitness soaps.
Yes, so, and there'll be a link to that below this video as well. So connect with her. I've been pushing her to put more content on her YouTube channel.
She has.
It's true. It's like every time we see each other, how's those videos coming, Samantha? Because here's the thing, and I love this about you, is you have so much detailed, beautiful knowledge to share, and it's not just in the skin stuff and all the stuff you do there, but in the fitness realm. And I think that taking care of our body, which includes our skin, there's so many nuggets of things that you share, and she just dropped a great video this last week, so I'll put a link to that as well, because it's got a great little story on it. So
that's sweet.
yeah,
Thank you.
of course. No, so Samantha is one of those people that you have these lifelong friends that you knew in another lifetime. This is one of mine.
Yes, that's for sure.
So we've been friends for 25 years?
25.
Something like that.
25, 28.
So some people you walk through life and you stay friends, and some you don't, but some are lifelong. So I'm grateful that you're in my life. And
so grateful that you're in mine.
so we're having a gushy moment here. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, you guys. Let us know if you have any questions. We always monitor the comments, and I hope you learned something that you can take out into the world and empower yourself with these little nuggets of things to make sure that you're getting products, especially homemade ones from people that are really the best and the highest quality. So thank you for stopping by.
Thank you for asking me.
If you made it to the end of this, we're going to go see a movie.
Yes.
We're going to go have a girls' night and celebrate this one's birthday. So I hope you guys have a beautiful day, and we will talk to you soon.